Hi, I'm Casey, and I'm here with Clara. We're going to go through
Hello.
Clara's resume preparation. I do a lot of career coaching for friends and family and friends of friends, and especially in tech. Here are the four stages that I like to do, whether I'm applying to a job or helping someone else. And I've already done a couple of these with Clara. We're here on step three already. I talked with Clara about what's important to Clara in a job and what jobs does she want. And we picked some. We got one that Clara's targeting now. And now we want to make
Mhm.
sure that Clara can get through the screening process. And then the interview is later. We're not talking about that today. I got a whole bunch of worksheets. So Clara did this worksheet 3B, which I call the inverted resume, and we'll be going through what Clara did. But anyway, before
Mhm.
you hear more about me or we start this actual session itself, let's hear from Clara.
Hi. So I am applying for manager, senior manager, director roles in program managing. I am a public health professional by trade and training, and that's the general area that I want to work in, although I do like a lot of other different types of programs. I spent a lot of time doing community and grassroots type work, and now I'm moving my resume and interest to shift over to more managerial directorship type roles. So here's one that I found. It's a good commuting distance for me. It's a topic area I like, it's a title that I like, and the work itself seems to fit very well within what I like to do. I believe that I'm 100% qualified for this job, so I want to make sure that my resume both reflects what I am qualified to do, gives really good, solid examples, and is easy to read, and also gives off director manager attitude, not really as much grassroots coordinator attitude as what I was doing before.
The other day, Clara, you were telling me about this worksheet and how it was frustrating in a way, but really helpful and good. And I want to hear that. Tell us about that.
Yeah. It was frustrating because the thing is, like, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I do this. When I'm making a new resume, I usually start with the resume I already have and I go
Mm-hmm.
through and read the whole thing and I fix it, change it, I add in some quantifiable things. I think really hard about all the functions I did in that job to make sure I'm giving myself credit for each thing. And the issue I was having is that I find myself summating a lot or having lots of summation bullet points, things that give you vague ideas about what I was doing, but not things that give you concrete examples or very clear things that anyone who can read it can look at, grab it, latch onto it, bring it up in interviews and conversation later. And I realized that for in three different ways. One, after reading or rereading this worksheet for the inverted resume, I was like, okay, I think I already do that. Like I was trying to convince myself that I already, I'm already addressing what needs to be addressed for the job description. And I look back at my resume, I'm like, I'm kind of embarrassed about this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
not
do
that
that
it's
too.
necessarily bad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it's like you don't really think, oh, this is bad. You don't really think that. It's more like it's like you look at something too long, you stop seeing it fully.
Yeah. We also have what's called the curse of knowledge because we know all the stuff that we've
Yeah.
done. And so when we look at our own resume, we're like, yeah, that one line on line 57 of my really dense and wordy resume that I have, it's obvious that I'd be really good at this. They should know. But how could they
They
know
should
if it's just one
know.
line of the whole
How
thing? We
could
really
they
have to
know?
design it.
I have one, two, three, four, 7, 8. I have 8 two-line bullet points for each of the jobs, and that's me paring it down. It's super dense. There's lots of commas, and I'm just like, this. I'm embarrassed because I know as someone who's had to read resumes, it's really hard to read that and pick out anything useful. So I was frustrated because as soon as I reread my resume after looking at this, I was like, I have to redo the whole thing. I
Yeah,
have to
true.
redo the whole thing. It was super frustrating. But it was nice going through this worksheet because sometimes it's hard to sort of access that creative writing part of my brain. But with the worksheet, it's sort of like you're asking yourself questions that you just need to answer. And that makes it very clear and concise.
Yeah,
The
and
topics.
these questions are what the resume skimming person is asking themselves, right? That's where these
Yeah.
questions came from. And you're writing them imagining you're that person. Once you wrote them, then you can answer them.
Yeah. And I'm not sometimes I get into a weird headspace when dealing with resumes. It's a really unique document to try to write. So instead of trying to get super intense about it, I just copy and paste important lines and group them together in the topics area. So like this job description talks a lot about managing internal external partnerships. So when I picked out 2 or so instances of that, and I just pasted them, like facilitating community outreach strategies. Those are
Yeah.
external partnerships. Facilitating meetings of key partner stakeholders. That's external partnerships. And so I picked out those type of things, even just the one above it, working collaboratively with internal external partnerships
Yeah, yeah,
partners.
literally.
So it's like right there. So I was like, oh, this is obviously important. So I picked out those 3 bullet points and put it under a topic. And then I sat there, I put my resume down,
Yeah, that's
and I was
hard.
like, okay,
Uh-huh.
it's hard. It's so
Yeah.
hard.
So you did that
And I
over
sat
here,
there and
right?
I'm like,
Or is
yeah.
this a different document?
No, that's the same document. It's not as pretty, but that's
Yeah, it's just
there's a
notes.
section. It's just notes, and it's just like I would just pick up things that seem to go together.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
themes.
I just wrote down quick things that came to memory about experiences
Yeah,
that support those things. Like this topic area on researching evidence-based
research. Yep.
practices. And I was like, okay, well, my whole master's thesis was about that. I wrote an entire technical assistance package for policymakers, and I literally have that nowhere on my resume. It's not on my resume. It's
Oh my
not at
God.
all.
Yep.
And I didn't even think about that. And because I
Yeah,
was
I've
like,
done that a
oh,
lot
yeah,
too.
that,
Of course they'll know. But
of course they'll
somehow that's what
realize
we
that the
think.
one line that says I have a master's in public health and behavioral and community health will let them understand that I obviously have a working knowledge of how to convert like information and evidence research based
Yep.
practices and implement them. Of course they'll know that. No.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny
And I'm
hearing us
just
say it
like
now because we have the gift of
hindsight's
hindsight
2020.
now. So this is funny maybe, but a lot of people get really stuck in thinking that their resume is already great, but they don't know why they're not getting the interviews that they were hoping for.
Yeah.
Including me
And
sometimes. I'm not
honestly,
immune. I have to do my own process if I'm going to do it the right way. It's not like I developed a process and magically I do it right every time. I have to remember to pull out my own worksheet.
how
It's
did we think?
natural. This isn't like a natural way to approach it.
No. It's also daunting. It's daunting to think
Yeah.
about redoing your resume because you spent so much time trying to remember. And I don't know if you're like me, Casey, but when I'm in a job and I do something I'm particularly proud of, I jot it down in like a working document or something
Yeah,
so
a
that I will
smile
remember it.
file, some people call it. I have one of
A
those.
smile file, success
It's just a Google
stories.
Doc
I
for me
just keep,
usually. Just one Google Doc
yeah.
that's long now.
But it's good and bad because you want to tell people how great you are, and you're like, look at all this cool stuff I know how to do, but that's not what they're asking about. The resume is like your highlights reel. It's not supposed to be the hour and a half
Yeah.
documentary.
Yeah. The hour and a half documentary is the
So
CV, which most jobs don't even ask for.
right.
And if you want to, you
So
can include a highlights reel attached to a CV. Sometimes I do that. Um,
mm-hmm.
some jobs don't want that. Whatever. You have to read the job description. Some people will send both in to a job, and it works sometimes, but sometimes it gets disregarded. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's every company's different. But yeah, the CV
Yeah.
is what most people think of as the resume. It's closer to the CV idea.
Right. And actually, for some people, it's very hard to distinguish them
Mhm.
because either you have a lot of research or published papers and you like want to bring up all that. It can be hard to distinguish, but trying to train my mind to think about it as this is your highlights reel. This is the trailer to your movie. They don't need to know every single thing about you. They need to know, are you going to meet their later standards? Are you meeting their expectations? Can they pull it out immediately? And that led to me writing down these notes. And I had told Casey about this before, but I started this worksheet and I literally put it away because I was like, I have to redo everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. People do that. It can be overwhelming.
So yeah,
That's
yeah,
human.
because it's totally human. Like even in the same bullet point, asking about evidence based practices, things that I didn't even like. Okay, on here, adjunct instructor. I'm an adjunct instructor for 2 different universities, and I have that on my resume. It's on there. But the part where I talk about, like, I say, oh, I made a curriculum. I don't say the fact that I did tons of research, went to literal classes,
Yeah,
evidence-based
yeah,
practices on how to teach in a diverse classroom and how to develop a curriculum so that as many students as possible can succeed and retain the information that you've given them and use them in real life. That stuff, I'm like, oh, I didn't
yeah, yeah,
exactly represent that. And I'm like, well, that was such a dynamic experience. Why didn't I talk about it? I forgot.
yeah. The curse of knowledge too. Yeah, and
The
maybe
curse of
also
knowledge.
forgetting. Sure, both happen.
No, but I forget that not everyone's going to read the same sentence and think about all those explicit things that comes to mind when I
Yeah,
think about them.
yeah, yeah. And even if they're screening whoever it is, HR, the hiring manager, whoever's doing the screening, even if they are really on top of it and they're really thorough and read line by line and really think about the depth of the meaning of every line, like we naively always
Mhm.
naturally, me too, always imagine they'll do for us and give us that benefit of the doubt.
Mhm.
Maybe they can't because they don't have enough of the context here to know what teaching as an adjunct at the university meant. They can't. It's not there, even if they wanted to be super
Yeah.
thorough. But they're also not super thorough usually. Me, when I was doing hiring and screening people at different companies, often I'll get a resume like an hour before an interview when I'm interviewing someone, and
Mhm.
I'm like, why didn't I get this sooner? And I skim it real quick, and I feel bad about it. But that's just like the hiring pipeline is very rushed a lot of the time. They're trying to be efficient, and so
Mhm.
knowing some people are like that, most people, we have to make it super, super readable, skimmable, so that someone who's
Mhm.
screening candidates, a whole bunch of candidates, they know they need research, evidence based practices, that kind of thing. And they can just open your resume, look at it, and be like, she's got it. Next. Like we want it to be quick, quick, quick.
Yeah.
We'll get you there, Clara. I don't think we're there yet. That's why we're going to work on this together today. But we will. I think this next resume
Yeah.
version is going to be like, duh, she's qualified for this job. Anyone who picks up your resume is going to say, that's what we need.
I really hope so.
You've got the
So, yeah.
experience. That's clear.
I
It's just
definitely do. I'm
packaging.
just trying to
Just how do we
packaging.
frame it?
Yeah. So, yeah. So this worksheet has been both good and frustrating
Sure, sure. So
to
for the
look at.
frustrating part, I'm
And
glad we get to work together on it now because I think doing it in a pair really helps me. When I'm doing my
mhm,
own, I try to get in a second pair of eyes. It can reduce the stress a lot.
yeah. So what happens now? Do we go through this? I have to delete basically, I have to delete everything under each of my jobs under my traditional style resume
Yeah, yeah.
to insert the appropriate things. But yeah.
So I want to talk through this so I can follow what you have here, at least the highlights
Hmm.
of each one. So first topic, data-driven clinical decision making. Oh yeah, I like that you change the font on these. They're different. Yep. Different clauses for
Yep.
the same kind of idea. Straight from the job description, probably, right?
Hmm.
Right. So tell me about your highlight experiences here. Oh,
Okay.
first I want to mention in my worksheet I separate highlight experiences, which is this part, from the how to grow and develop further. And for some people, there's a lot in the how to grow part. If you have a dream job, you want to grow into it. But most people that
Hmm.
I work with actually have so much in the highlight experiences already. That's where we focus. So, Claire, I think
Hmm.
today we can mostly focus on the highlight experiences and try to get you to the resume that I know you have in you already. And then the how to
Yeah.
grow, I mean, we can talk about it, but that's maybe not the focus. Feel free to
Hmm.
bring it up. But, all right, highlight
Okay.
experiences. Ready. I'm ready to hear about that.
All right. So the first three about evaluating data, data driven decision making, usually involving research practices, training, evaluation, implementation, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of put all those together because those are all pieces of the same process.
Sure, sure.
From data to implementation, that is the data driven process. So I put in highlights where I took specific initiatives and data driven processes. The first thing I have listed there is the learning management system at ACPM, a previous employer. And the learning management system is their software for storing, organizing, and delivering their education material. I went in there, I looked at what was doing well, what wasn't. I changed what appeared in the featured section, how the homepage appeared based on feedback directly from participants and students. I also went through and I looked at where people are clicking, where they're not clicking, how they're getting to certain courses that are doing well. Some courses they got through it through the main page. Some courses they only ever went to it through the link they were given because the page was too difficult to navigate or they couldn't find it because our search engine needed a little bit more work. The keywords weren't working properly, so I went in there and changed those. I tagged, I edited the metadata. I worked with the company that was
Mm-hmm.
supporting us month over month with IT questions to explain to me more how we could better utilize the system they've built. So I spent a lot of time in that learning management system collecting data, realizing what was wrong, fixing it, changing it,
Yeah.
implementing later on how we upload courses, what information we prioritize putting in there, and how we can streamline a process from in-person program to the evaluation that they have to take after the program in that learning
Yeah.
management
Yeah.
system. So that was a lot of data-driven work.
Right. And part of me wants to write all that down, but there's a separate exercise I want to do for stories. That's worksheet 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's like interview stories. So once we get to that point, we'll have the questions. We'll answer those questions with these stories, and you have plenty of those.
Mm-hmm.
For this part, for the resume, to get through the screening, uh, for the LMS, this bullet point, how do you know you were successful? How would someone look at it? Okay, you've done it. You've done this kind of work. Sure, sure. But did it work? Did it meet your
Mm-hmm.
outcomes? How do you know?
Oh, I know because sales increased for those products by 30%, where they were over year.
Wow, that's huge. Year over year. I know that. Really. Okay, leave me alone. Blah. Okay, okay. That's a great resume line. I think that's the advice everybody knows is like how do you add metrics to your resume
Mm-hmm.
via XYZ, and we can come back to that when we're in the resume itself. I think it'll be easier to come up with those few.
Yeah.
Wow, what a good resume line. Uh, Data driven. We want to have that phrase. That's pretty important to them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's true. I'm not just
Data-driven,
guessing here.
evidence-based process.
Yeah. Oh, and can we include the word evidence? Sometimes I like to take notes on the words to put places.
Mm-hmm.
If they use the word evidence, you should use the word evidence, not a synonym as much. I've had this problem before.
Yeah.
I said I am an Ember JS developer, and someone told me, "Oh, well, you don't know JavaScript." Ember JS, the JS is JavaScript. It stands for that. They didn't know. The screener was not technical enough to know that was equivalent or similar or related. So in tech, I have to put JavaScript. Apparently,
Yeah.
if I think the screener might not know all the specific languages, but then the hiring
Yeah.
manager they know, and it's like redundant. It's a wasted word. It's like not adding much value for the density. But anyway, the audience of this one, I'm telling all this to make a big point. It's the screener, the HR screener, or someone who might not have all the
Mm-hmm.
context. They have to get it. So
Yeah.
I love that you called out evidence. We want to have that word there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Are these in rough priority order or the order that you thought of them?
The order that I thought of them, and
Okay. Okay.
usually that has to do
Um,
with the difficulty level it was, or like how intense that experience was. Has very little to do with
sure.
how relevant I think it is.
Yeah. 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 I happen to remember the LMS from when we talked before, so I know that is a big deal and the kind of thing that folks hiring you might be interested in. But anyway, for the next, there's a lot here. If you had to pick,
Mm-hmm.
what's the next most important one to this employer for the health equity manager at CVS, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. It would be the next one. Those next two bullets go together. And then it would be
Okay.
the one that says researching best practices for learning and listening modules.
Great. Okay. X is just my placeholder. You can't make it an empty bullet until you do it. Anyway, whatever. All right, tell me about this one. Researching best practices for learning and listening modules. That sounds like something specific I might not know.
It's just a summative
What is it?
sentence. I was trying to get it out of my head as quick as possible. But I was serving on the
Okay, okay. So the
racial
term might
health
not be
equity.
relevant to this.
No, term isn't relevant. I was
Okay.
serving on the racial health equity committee when I was working at the hospital's population health department. When I was there, I had to help and oftentimes lead the development and implementation of racial health training and education structures, modules, information, which involved listening sessions where we had discussions about how comfortable people are about talking about race, et cetera, et cetera. We had internal discussions about what information to prioritize that everyone learn as
Mm-hmm.
foundational or baseline information. how to incorporate the knowledge and information we learn into best practices related to working with diverse groups, culturally diverse
Yeah, yeah.
groups of people. So that involved a lot of research about best practices for leading discussions about difficult or racially driven conversations. It has a lot to do with finding industry acceptable resources for building out those tools so that we could be on par and it could also be easily acceptable across the different levels of the institution. I was working within a larger institution. And so the researching best practices had a lot to do with like information as well as how best to integrate that information into where I was working at the time.
How do you know that was helpful? Sometimes, I mean, I am someone I want to do research a lot, but sometimes I'll do research and
Mm-hmm.
do the same thing in the end, and someone could criticize me, they have before, or something, that it wasn't useful.
Yeah.
I think it might have been anyway, but how would you prove to the skeptic? That's what I want to know here.
Well, we we led the entire hospital. Our department was the first one to get our committee upstanding and going, and it was so useful, so helpful. Everyone liked it so much that they actually gave us the Excellence in Diversity and Awareness Award for our work on that committee.
Wow. This committee won the cool. Yeah, look, that's proof. Uh-huh. You sure did that. Were you on the committee? Was it a small group? Were you a leader of it? Did you do the most of the research,
Um,
that part of what the committee
I
did? Like,
did.
how was your involved?
The committee was four to, I would say, 4 to 10 people, because we get more or less people throughout the year depending on what we're doing.
Yeah, it absolutely.
4 to 10 people. I would call myself more of a leader in that group because I did a lot of work developing the questions for book clubs, facilitating conversations, talking through the structure of how to lead those listening sessions, and talking through how to use the resources available to us to get it in. So I think that I was pretty
Okay, cool, cool. So we can
involved in
safely
that committee
say
when I was on it.
you were leading a committee. That's roughly true. It's more true than saying you were just a member. So I would summarize it
Yeah.
to you led the committee. I don't think that's being deceptive because there's often multiple leaders of the group anyway, this kind of committee structure.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't need to say a whole sentence about how you were only partially responsible. That's really easy to want to do in resumes. I want to be very accurate and give
Mm-hmm.
everyone else credit, but it's not functional for a skimming person. That's not what they
Yeah.
need to. Anyway, so led the committee. Which one? That's a line we could use, something like that. And then what we need to get back in here, which we don't have yet, is they're looking for the data-driven clinical decision making.
Mm-hmm.
You just told me all about how you did it, but how can we say it short, based on industry best practices? That just feels very, I don't know, weak. I think there's got to be some kind of specific thing.
Yeah, that's tough because I'm not really sure how to. We we
Did you package the
used
research? Did you write a report about it based on 100 sources? I'm trying to find like numbers. I don't know. Just one idea.
No, I didn't
What
package
were
it
you
in that
thinking?
way. We had an internal document where we collected the direction and our goals for teaching and learning, where we listed all of our resources that we were going to use. But
And that was probably
there's
used by other
no
departments, right?
magic.
The resources document?
Yes, that is used by other departments. It's still used in that department actually, even though I no longer work there.
Cool.
And like I said, we were the first departmental committee to do something like that. Um, the institution had it at a high level, but not our hospital and
Yeah.
not other departments. So I think a lot of people use what we did as a blueprint for how to do theirs.
Yeah. Oh man, how can we highlight that? I might say our work was used by, how do we say, many people in a specific way? Many departments? Our foundational, how's that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah, actually.
to improve patient outcomes? No.
That was the goal. That's always the goal at the hospital.
Any metrics you can tie to it? No, no numbers. How do you know it was successful? People said it was valuable. That's pretty good.
People said it was
Anything else in that
valuable.
vein?
The hospital overall recognized the value of it. And
Yeah, the award.
what if I were to say, if I were just speaking colloquially, how I would measure success in that is because we were the population health department, meaning we would go out into the community and do these things. So I heard from a lot of community health workers and PRNs, or rather
Yeah,
part time nurses, that how the information that they learned about context for maybe some decision making that people have, or the way certain behaviors play out, how that affected how compassionate and
yeah,
patient they were able to be in their work, which can be very difficult if you're someone who's providing resources to the community at that level.
cool. Oh, man, I love hearing that. So not only the company through the award, but also you heard from the folks on the ground how helpful this was.
Mm-hmm.
That's so heartwarming. I
Yeah.
love that kind of thing. Yeah, people want
Yeah.
to. I know that. People want to do this kind of thing and listen and be compassionate. And sometimes they need some kind of awareness they don't have yet. Even if they're interested and have
Yeah.
time, they need the skills. And you were filling that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We had overwhelming, is that true? It might not be true. Positive feedback from community health workers. That's something that CVS would care about, community health workers. Is there another way to say that audience in a way they care about?
I don't know how to say in a way that they would care about, but that is true. I'm going to say, I think that there's a more general term like public health, population health workers, public health workers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because they specifically mention one of some of their goals have to do with health equity analytics, bias reduction, and diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. And
Mm-hmm.
this is definitely in that wheelhouse, which is why it's something that came to mind, because their whole thing is about health equity. So I think bias reduction and all those things are important when you're someone like a community health worker
Yeah.
or a public health nurse.
Um, this group came up with training. We can come back to wordsmithing this later, but something like this, I feel like captures the essence of what you did. That sounds good. If you just said you led a committee alone, I don't think I'd be that impressed. Like, of course, companies have committees and people lead them. Yeah, yeah. What did you all do? Did you do stuff? Did you just meet every week and do nothing? That happens sometimes. But this, wow, you got an
Mm-hmm.
award and the people on the ground really liked it both, like leadership, and that's what I'm looking for this kind of thing. And the award is really actually very powerful, even though sometimes I think that they're silly, companies giving awards to their departments, but they're very effective. They're really powerful at signaling what the company values and celebrating people who do good
Mm-hmm.
work. So I'm coming around to enjoying awards at companies now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to get through everything clearly in this session, but hopefully you'll get the pattern of like what kinds of things I'm looking for and what the questions are. Generally, it's like, how do we know? How do we
Yeah.
prove it to a skeptic?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather go to another section or do another one here?
Uh,
Or shift gears to your
I
resume. If you're ready for that, that's fine too. Really,
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
just
rather shift
listening
gears
with
to
you
my
anyway.
resume.
Let's do that.
Yeah, I can drop my I've been calling it my fake resume. My resume that has a bunch of old bullet points in it because it just makes me too
Yeah,
sad to delete it all at once.
yeah.
um,
All right, cool. Yeah, I think we're at a good point here. I think you've probably seen like what I'm looking for in these and what it looks like to, I guess, crystallize what you brainstormed here
mhm.
earlier. I'm really glad you brainstormed this much. It made this go a lot smoother and faster. Um, so next, I think we can start putting this kind of thing into your resume and see how it fits. and then we'll go back and forth
Mm-hmm.
between what they're looking for from the job description, from your themes that you pulled out here, and comparing that to your resume. We'll do that next
Great.
time.
All right.
This is starting to look
Sounds good.
good. I mean, it's still very obvious to
Yeah.
me you have all of the competent skills and background and evidence to get this next job. All right, talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Claire.